The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Oh, let me just cut to the chase here, Mike, rather quickly. Everybody wants to know where we're going to go from here, and Sheriff Arpaio and I have said from the very beginning, this really needs to go to Congress. And that is the area and the direction that we are pursuing. We believe Congress not only has an obligation and a responsibility to do this for the American people, but they have a constitutional requirement to look into this matter. It is really beholden upon them to do this type of investigative work. So in course with that, and I'm sure your listeners know, Carl Gallups and I both went to CPAC together, and we were very fortunate to have a lengthy conversation with Congressman Steve Stockman. Steve Stockman is still on board pursuing this matter. What I need your people to understand, and I was in contact with my persons well, let me back up. I was in contact with the individual that I am directly communicating with through the Stockman camp, if you will, and they have assured me that Congressman Stockman is very much involved, very much on board. This is going to become a timing issue. And they did tell me that it's going to take longer than they had originally anticipated. And obviously we all feel like it's taking forever, but something is going to be done about this. And that's about all I can share on the Stockman update right now. But I want you to understand that Congress is where we think we need to go. There has been a litany of attempts to bring this before magistrates, before certain courts, and every one of them have failed. And Sheriff Arpaio and myself, we don't want to try to recreate that wheel. We really believe Congress is where it needs to be, and that's where we're directing people to focus their attention.
Mike, you want a direct question?
Yeah. This pertains to. So, Mike, the thing of it is, these 30 or 40 congressmen, I mean, none of them appear to be doing anything about it if they don't believe he's legitimate. But anyway, we have seen nothing out of the CCP, as I repeated, nothing, no newspaper ads, nothing, no TV
well,
ads.
Let me address this.
Yeah.
Let me address this first off.
Thank you,
I
Rick.
do take a little exception. I take a little exception to the statements you have seen nothing. In 24 months, we have been as forthcoming as we can be in releasing information to the public on an ongoing criminal investigation, which is unprecedented to do. Number two, I know for a fact 15 different states, 17 different trips I've been on in less than a year trying to move and advance this forward. Steve Stockman is the name of a congressman I gave you. I am not going to divulge names of other congressmen for various reasons that I'll keep to myself. And we are not in the business of promoting newspaper ads. This is not a political agenda for us. This is the pursuit of the truth of a fraudulent document that happens to be associated with the most powerful man in the world. And that's what we're pursuing.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking for some kind of, media blitz, we're not the place to do that.
That's right.
We don't do that kind of thing. And this is what I fear the public wants to see their frustration expressed through us in some kind of media barrage. That is not going to happen. And let me clarify for all your listeners, we are not pursuing Barack Obama. We are not pursuing the President of the United States. We are pursuing the creation and display of a fraudulent document, and we want to know when, why, who, what, where, and how did this thing happen. That's what we're pursuing. And let me just back you up a little bit. For 5 years, from what I can tell, this movement has been unsuccessful to get this litigated anywhere and made zero inroads into Congress. Now, you have to give me a little pass here for playing catch-up in 24 months, but it was less than 24 months. I got you, Congressman. who's paying attention. Other than that, I can't adjudicate it myself. My job is to be an investigator. That's what I'm doing. My job is to do this unbiasedly. My job is to fact find and determine, did something nefarious happen here? And I believe we've done that. Pushing this forward, quite honestly, and I don't want to sound crass when I say this, but that is being done of my good graces. My job was done a long time ago. And I am feverishly trying to put this into the hands of Congress. So I do take a little exception that you've seen nothing. I can tell you, for the hours that I have put into this, over 5,000 of my personal hours, my time, invested into this, nothing is a stretch. But Mike, let me say one other thing, and I do appreciate that, but let me say one other thing. You know, there is only so much any one individual can do. And Steve Stockman is a single individual at this point who is willing to put it out there. And we have to support that effort as well. And knowing that this is tied to politics just makes it that much more difficult. And you have to keep in mind that there is an election cycle coming up. People are apprehensive. Others that we talk to that, you know, quite candidly told us they know we're right, but they're apprehensive. There is an election cycle coming up. And what I would really encourage everyone to do before they go in there and just pull the lever for a Democrat, Independent, Republican, start looking into some of the associations that some of these people have. What groups are supporting these candidates? And I think you're going to be very, very surprised. And Carl mentioned earlier today about OBOTs. OBOTs to me are irrelevant. They are people that, in everything that they do, all they do is denigrate, they slander, they defame, they malign. Everything they say is meant to, you know, put up another smokescreen or red herring. But as this investigation unfolds, I can tell you there are some shocking connections to both officials in Hawaii, the White House, that are troubling as far as that particular group is concerned. And the latest thing that they put out there was some cockamamie story about a Xerox copier, which they want to send to us as information anonymously, not giving up their identities, not doing it in any legal manner. They just want us to, you know, pursue this rabbit trail. And here's what your listeners have to understand. This is bigger than the birth certificate.
Yes.
And what these people want to do is use these tactics to keep everyone focused on a document we've already come to our conclusion is a forgery. They want to keep the focus there because there's other areas to look at. And let me just elaborate a little further on that. What you're going to have to realize is if we are working from the premise that the document is fictitious, that didn't happen by some lone individual. This was an effort by more than one person to perpetrate this. That, for lack of a better word, is a conspiracy. And our investigation is not only on this, quote, PDF file. And if you think for 24 months that's all I've been looking at, you are going to be sadly mistaken. This investigation is a lot broader than that, and there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. That's why Sheriff Arpaio has said from the very beginning, and it was Sheriff Arpaio that said this needs to go to Congress. It needs to go to Congress. We've heard prodding about filing criminal complaints, civil actions. Look, Congress is where it needs to go. And that's where your people are going to need to start to focus on. It's going to have to go to Congress. Who's the impediment in Congress? Look, I've been told over and over again by congresspersons that I have met personally, sat in their offices, that the speaker is a problem. He will not let this come forward. I've been told that that same individual is a problem with Benghazi. will not let hearings go forward, will not get a select committee, will not allow a select committee to be formed. Now, that's a problem. But you know what? The only people that can control that are the people that are going to pull the lever for that individual. So people need to really start to pay attention to some of these associations. I mean, if you look into the OBOTs, you have people that are professed communists. You have people that have, and this is public information, major psychological issues. Major. You have people with criminal backgrounds, and you have people connected directly to the administration. Now, is this a group of people that you would trust to guide you in any direction, to put you in a forthright, positive direction? Even if they had information, you would have to, that information is suspect until you can source the information, the origins of that information. So from an investigative standpoint, we don't take anonymous tips in this kind of investigation. Everything has to be sourced.
Right.
And that's what takes a lot of time to do. It takes hours to source a lot of this information. So time daylight burns, and there's no way to control that. And an investigation in fraud, let me be clear about another thing. Investigations, fraud investigations sometimes take 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I know this seems long. I think we're working at warp speed. And I think we're in a good direction, and everybody's got to toe the line. Don't give up the fight. Never give up the fight. We're not giving up the fight. Sheriff Arpaio's not giving up the fight. But we have the confines of law to work through. We have legal obstacles to work through. And we have the will of other people that is basically impossible to overcome unless you can fully persuade them and they have no fear. So people, especially Congress people, will need to know that they're supported.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.